the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour with your hosts, Joe Bond and AJ Appleton.
Touchdown! All right. Welcome to the Fantasy Six-Pack Hour. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. With me tonight, filling in for AJ, is our producer, Mike LaPlant. What's going on, man?
Not much. Just ready to not be a voice in the sky tonight. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm ready to not watch this crappy Thursday night game that I apparently did not know was supposed to be pouring down rain. I missed that news. I don't know. Me and our guest, we'll introduce later. We're talking off air. Like, both of us were like, wait, what? There was rain? Oh, yeah. And it's really bad. So this game is terrible. I predicted the over in this game, and it's going to be, unless we get fireworks in the second half, it's not happening. So it's been bad.
Which is weird because usually it's the wind that affects the offenses more than the rain.
This is like downpour rain, man. Like this is different. And apparently, turns out one of our Discord members mentioned it earlier today, and just how this field is terrible. Although it looks like the field's actually like holding up. It's nobody's catching the ball. The throws are coming out off. It's just been bad. So hopefully they can figure something out in the locker room at halftime, because this game needs to
change the cleats.
Quick. Wear gloves or something. I don't know, because it's bad, man. They're showing I'm watching the halftime, and like the balls are just really errant. But all right, let's jump into the show. We're gonna get everybody ready for Week 15, your fantasy football playoffs for most of you. While you're here, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We appreciate it. And of course, our all access memberships are still available. You get access to the award-winning rankings. You get access to all the DFS content, our Discord. Let's see here, betting content, and our fantasy baseball content is ramping up here, as
fantasy basketball too.
And we got fantasy basketball going. We got DFS cheat sheets for all that kind of stuff. So we got lots of stuff. Go ahead and jump over there. FantasySixPack.net/plans. Use F6P NFL 24 to save 15%. And without further ado, let's bring in our guest of the night, Carly Menger. What's going on? Glad to have you here.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Mike. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Glad to have you here. We've been following you a little bit on your socials. I love the content you've been putting out. So wanted to make sure you got some attention here on our podcast. And so I think we can get rolling here. I think you brought up this first topic actually to me in our chat on Blue Sky. So wanted to roll with this one first, and it's sort of a mishmash of like kind of back and forth we had, but really what it came down to was how to like the sample size that you want to use when you're deciding on setting your lineups, especially in the fantasy playoffs, right? It's been 14 weeks at this point. So do we use the full season? Do we use the last 4 weeks? Do we use the last 8 weeks? For deciding defensive matchups, deciding offensive trajectory, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to let you have the floor first, since it was kind of your thing, and let us know kind of what you think about all of this.
Yeah, it was really something I was trying to create some wide receiver, running back, tight end, QB matchups for the playoffs, show everybody what the strength of schedule looked like, and I couldn't decide what statistical time frame to use. And so season long, you get a larger data pool, you get more consistency, insights, kind of more stability, and it takes care of outlier issues. But it can be outdated context-wise sometimes, and it can mask trends, like you were saying. With a smaller sample size, you get more recency. It adapts more to how defenses or offensive players are kind of trending at the moment. But like I said, it can be more volatile. So I have found personally that I like at this point in the season kind of an 8-game sample, past 8 games, because it takes care of a little bit of the volatility while still giving you enough space for the trends.
Yeah, I tend to find I tend to realize that it ends up being kind of a mishmash of both for me. But Mike, before I kind of get into my spiel, like, what do you lean toward when you're making lineup decisions that are ever so important for your fantasy playoffs? It's win or go home.
Well, I mean, and it's a week by week game. I mean, fantasy playoffs, like you said, it's win or go home. Like, you've been relying on your studs all year long, and they could just have terrible matchups. Like I won't get too much into it, but it's a guy we'll talk about later. James Cook, you've been riding him all year long, but this week's matchup, maybe it's not ideal for your playoff outlook if you're the underdog this week. So I try to look at it as a 4-game sample size. Like, really, it's a month by month league. Is how I look at it. So 4 games is what I try to stretch it out at. And when then I'm looking at, like, for tiebreakers, that's when I'll stretch it out to that 8-game sample size, or maybe the season long, just to see the consistency factors in there, because 4 games I think is enough to make a decision for 1 week. Maybe see a trend potentially, like how you use your usage article to predict, who's going to be popping up on the waiver wire before, you got to use that waiver wire claim to get them. So I really try to stick on the four games, sample size, because, that's where I think you can just get just enough recency bias, but not enough to, overtake your opinion.
Yeah, so I'll jump in a little bit here, and I look at it a couple of different ways. I think when I started thinking about this topic a little bit before the show, I think I go more toward the season long to start with, and then it's kind
like
of
beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because you want to find, especially when you're ranking, right? And that's kind of what that's obviously what I think I'm most known for. When you want to rank and you want to decide who to start sit, I think, okay, I want to look at guys who can be more consistent. And then, yes, then I kind of look at, like, case by case basis. And there's like a list of players that I have every week that I realize, okay, I need to maybe kind of go a little deeper with this and think, okay, is there something that has changed over the course of, the last, few weeks that has caused them to be better or worse players? Are they just totally flopping? Take Deebo Samuel, for example. He's been terrible. Like, normally I would have put him easily in the top, 12, top 13. I think this week he's number 22 for me, which,
and I still might be a little
high,
bullish.
Which
yeah,
might be too high apparently. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. And then, Carly, you and I were talking, earlier, like Rico Dowdell, right? So Rico Dowdell, if you use the whole season as kind of like his average and his projection, you're looking at weeks where he had Zeke involved a lot more than he should have ever been, right? You had Dak healthy. And so the offense has drastically changed over the last, few weeks. There's basically no Zeke. We do not have Dak. We have Cooper Rush. The offense is completely different. The defense is actually a little bit better than it had been because guys are getting healthier. So there's a lot of changes there. So that's when you go, okay, I might want to look at, like, how he's performed all season, but then kind of maybe put a little more weight on him for the last, like, few weeks, because things have totally changed. And that's kind of how you do it. That's how you have to do it with, like, injury players. Like, I mean, how else do we do it with Isaac Guerrero, who came in last week? Like, if you looked at his whole season, he wouldn't have been ranked. He had nothing. You've just got to go and lean all into, like, recency trends at that point. So it is kind of a case by case basis. That might seem like a cop out answer, but it's the Dave Eddy answer. It depends.
It's the lawyer answer. It's our favorite answer.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, I am a lawyer, and our favorite answer is it depends. And one other thing I wanted to jump in and bring up is another group that I think is really interesting to think about this season long versus specific game analysis is kind of rookie wide receivers, because they tend to do much better in the second half of the season when they've become more comfortable in the NFL, when they're stop making some of these silly rookie mistakes, not knowing where their feet are, getting whatever it is, like being able to actually catch the ball, hashtag Xavier Leggett. But I think there are certain particular scenarios, groups, situations where it is more helpful to look in smaller sample sizes, and some where it's better to look long term. So completely agree. It depends, but did want to call out that rookie wide receivers is definitely one that I try to look at first half versus second half of the season, and then season long as a whole as well.
Yeah, the reason why I really like this topic is I do get a lot of questions and from multiple people, and it's, yeah, but this guy did really awesome last week and it's my playoffs. I really got to go all in on him. Well, but yeah, but I mean, like, he's done it once. You really ready to like put your playoff hopes on this guy that did it once. Yes, he might do it again, but odds are saying it's not going to happen. I could be wrong. It's not the first time, but I would much rather go with a guy who's done it multiple times than a guy who has done it once. And yes, it just happened to be last week. That's called chasing points. And
yeah, don't
I'm
chase
not doing
Patrick.
Chase
Mike,
the volume. You got a story about chasing points?
No. That was just me pulling a Ruxin. If you watch the league, that's just me pulling a Ruxin, me tinkering at the last second, and then forgetting to untinker my mistake. And I will never live it down because I lost by 0.14 points.
Scott Fishbowl.
Yeah.
He had a monster team out by 0.14, 503rd out of 500 that got through.
I mean, come on,
brutal.
By 0.14, I blame Parker Washington. Be better.
Yeah. What's going on, Albert? Sorry I didn't get your first there for you, but I knew you were there. We talked about it before the show. You hit it up before we started. Love it, man. So yeah, I mean, it's really important to just kind of remind people, like, look, you can make these decisions on a whim and go for the home run, right? Go for the deep, if you want to put a football analogy on it, go for the deep ball, right? Be the MVS, man. Like, go for it. But you've got to live with yourself. I don't know how many people have asked me, should I start Jameis Winston over Jalen Hurts? Mike, you're one of them. But you are legit not the only one.
But you understand why
but you're not even the only one. And I get it. Your league gets a little bit different scoring, but I'm even talking like normal quarterback standard scoring.
Normal quarterback.
I could not live with myself if I benched Jalen Hurts and I lost because of it. If I lose because I left Winston on the bench, okay. That's what I gotta do. Like, that's the way I do it. Like, I get it. I play different than some people, but that's the way I do it. And when you're thinking about this kind of data and analyzing who to start sit, this is the perfect question to kind of cover the whole basis of all of it. That's why I loved this question that you proposed, Carly. And I wanted to get into it because I'm telling you, I get tons of questions about it. And playoff times, everybody gets anxious and they get nervous. And it's like, oh my gosh, I got to go for it. If I make the wrong decision, I'm out. It's like, yeah, you know what? You're going to be out. It's going to happen. There's only one winner.
Getting to the fantasy playoffs takes skill. Winning the fantasy championship is luck.
It really is. Talk to AJ. I mean, I beat him one year because it was hilarious. It was the year that Winston, I forget what it was.
30 year?
Was it his 30? I forget who it was. Whoever it was, I forget. Like, he had Winston and I had the tight end. And Winston threw 3 touchdowns to the tight end in the championship. Yeah, phenomenal game. He just happened to go to all my
Totally
guys.
lucky though.
Totally lucky. Like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, he picked he made the right decision. It just, blew up in his face. So
it's like trying to trust Westbrook-Ikhine after 8 touchdowns in 8 games, and then he gives you this when you finally trust him.
Like, we're all gonna buy in and rank him high and put him on the waiver article, and then he's gonna stop scoring. Absolutely. So, all right. So we're gonna jump into our start sit portion of the show, but we got a couple live questions here. So let's get into these. Derek asked here, if Kenneth Walker is out, would you start Charbonnet over Monte at flex? My running backs are Achane, Gibbs, Monty. Ooh. PPR Sharps. That's tough. That I'm telling you, that's going to be like back to back for me.
What Sharps' matchup this week?
They play I don't remember.
Green Bay.
Hold on.
The jersey I'm wearing.
Yes, they do play Green Bay. You're
Green
right.
Bay. So
and the Lions get the Bills. It could be a shootout, but it also could be a shootout where it's like they're all just going to pass the ball and forget about the run game like they did last week with the Bills.
This one's a tough one because usually you don't want to be playing 2 players from the same offense. It limits your ceiling. But this is the one example where
this is
the one example where you can. We saw what Sharps did last week, but we were talking about this, looking at the trends, the sample size. I think last week was an outlier game for Sharps, as great as it was.
I don't think it is, actually.
See, I don't agree, because every time Walker's out. Go ahead.
There you go. If you look at the previous matchups, you're right on.
It's the rushing efficiency that scares me with Sharps. Yes, he gets involved in the passing game, but he's been inefficient up until that game running the ball. And that's what scares me, where you're pretty much guaranteed
because he gets like 4 touches a game.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, but how do you sit?
I go Charbonnet over Monty. I do.
Really?
I mean, he rushed
and I'm expecting
to carry last week.
Yeah, I'm expecting Walker to be.
That's not inefficient.
Yeah. No, that's what I was saying. It's one game that he hasn't been inefficient, and that's where I look at it as an outlier. Like, he's been involved in the passing game, but I mean, so has Monty. Monty's been involved in the passing game too, getting 4 targets a game the last 3. So, I mean, with the PPR, I just think Gibson and Monty are both guaranteed a touchdown.
Pretty much.
So, like, I look at volume, and I guess Sharps will get more volume, but I just can't sit Monty at this point. That's my opinion.
It's close. I do lean Sharps though, but yeah, I mean, I don't really think you can go wrong either way. You're probably
you're right.
A couple of points at best.
I mean, try and get all of them in if possible.
Right. We got another one here from our good friend Albert here. Tua, Darnold, or Nix? Pick 2.
That's funny. 2 of these are in our QB question, so I'll make it quick. My 2 are Tua and Darnold.
Okay.
I am going to agree.
I'm Darnold and Bo Nix.
Oh, you don't like Tua.
I think talk about recency trends. Tua learned
to
throw the ball to his receivers again, not named Jonnu Smith.
The engine to their offense.
Right.
Apparently.
Oh my goodness. Thankful for OT for a few people I know. I was getting gripes in my Twitter DMs from a bunch of people I know. They're like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening? He's giving me 0." And then it was like 3 seconds later, like, "Oh, he scored!"
Like, 13.4 points out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, Derek again, start 2, Garrett Wilson, Higgins, or Shakir. This is PPR, just to remind you.
Oh man.
Just off the cuff, I'm thinking Garrett Wilson and Shakir. Shakir definitely with the shootout potential in Detroit.
He's so much safer than Higgins too. We've seen the floor come out on Higgins last week. And Garrett Wilson is getting 8+ targets a game. So I think I agree with Carly there, and I'm going Shakir and Garrett Wilson.
Yes. I'm trying to where is Higgins in my rankings? Oh no.
That far down?
Take the back. He was that far up. the numbers don't lie. So we're going to go Higgins and we're going to go Wilson. Higgins going to have a big bounce back game. He had actually been playing very, very well up until
he had, man.
Well, that was a crazy game, and I almost got knocked out of the playoffs because of it. Like, I was a lock to win, and then he gave me a nothing. Thankfully, Ferguson caught that last catch and got me over the hump by 0.02 points.
I wish I could have got that from Parker Washington.
Wish AJ were here because he was the one I knocked out. By 0.02 points. All right, I know we got a few more live questions here. We're going to put those on hold so we can get going with our regular scheduled program here. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll get to them, I promise. But and actually, I need to do something else. I forgot to bring up the slide. So Mike, go ahead and I know I suck. It's again. See, Carly, I told you not to worry about it. We screw up all the time. We're good at this.
We move on.
For any of you watching, I'm new to this. This is the second time I've ever been on a podcast, and the first time was on Tuesday. So very new. But shout out Herms for shouting me out because mutual love, man.
Herms my boy, man. He lives about 40 minutes away from me. Good guy, like him. So
yeah, take it as a positive. Joe made the first mistake before you. That's always a good sign.
And there'll be many more. So, all right, Mike, you ready to go, man?
I think so. We can go.
So you start off. Is that the point?
I believe you start off is how I listed it. Correct? Go ahead.
That meant like you answer first. All right.
Yes, I'll answer first.
Okay. So we're gonna do sit for week 15 and first quarterback question here. We got Baker Mayfield versus the Chargers or Justin Herbert versus the Bucks. Mike, what you got?
Yeah, this is I made these questions before Carly even came up with this idea, but it turned out to be a good example of kind of the recency bias. And looking at recent sample sizes, because Baker, when he started off the year on fire, absolutely fuego. But lately, he has been struggling. QB 26 the past 4 weeks. I mean, Herbert, he's been struggling too as well. QB 21. But it is better than Baker. All right. And when we're looking at sample sizes of 4 weeks, and they're pretty much almost identical, only 5 apart in the QB 20 range. Give me the better matchup, even though they're playing each other. The better matchup here is Tampa Bay. They by far allow the most fantasy points to QBs. And then I looked on fantasypoints.com, great website. They give you schedule adjusted fantasy points a game per game allowed. And I looked, they don't break it down into 4 weeks. So I broke it down into 5 weeks, or they have season long. So I used 5 weeks. And the past 5 weeks, they are the 5th best matchup for schedule adjusted points. So give me Justin Herbert over Baker this week.
Carly, what you got?
So I tend to agree. I kind of saw a little bit of red light, green light with Baker. Week 10, QB 23, week 12, QB 9, week 13, QB 28, week 14, QB 8. Will we get another red light week? I don't know. He does have the tougher matchup. And I did make a note for Herbert, though. I think that having Ladd back makes him a definite answer in this for me. Without Ladd, it does make it a little shakier because I do think that Baker and Mike Evans can get it done against almost anyone. And now he has the little threat of Cade Otton. And he also has an issue of, is Bucky Irving going to be there? Are we going to just be seeing Rashad White? So I think some of the injuries in this game made it a little difficult for me. But in the end, I came to the answer of Justin Herbert as well.
Yeah. I lean Herbert, clean sweep here. A lot of the reasons you all said, but I will back you up with that, Carly. If Ladd is ruled out, he will drop in the rankings. Right now, I have him up around 9 or 10. If I'm looking at it,
but
right.
Does he drop below Baker?
He will not. No, Baker's a little too far down there for me to drop him below that. I just excuse me. This Chargers defense is still pretty good, even though they haven't been quite as good as they were to start out the season. They're still one of the top-notch defenses in the league. So, give me Herbert on this one. So,
And talk about trends. They've moved towards throwing the ball more since losing Dobbins anyway. So
yeah, absolutely.
Herbert's gotten way more of an opportunity.
Well, when you're running Gus Edwards out there, I don't think you got much of a choice.
Yeah, Gus Edwards and
You're not a Kamani Vidal fan?
Vidal.
I just want to throw Gus Edwards under the bus since it's
his own
Gus
bus.
Yes.
The Gus bus. Love it. All right. Next up, Mike.
All right, Joe, you get to start us off with this one. And this is what we were alluding to here. You get to choose between Sam Darnold versus the Bears and Bo Nix versus the Colts. Fight.
I mean, I don't know how you start Sam Darnold at this point. We want to talk about looking at recency trends. Sam Darnold's been one of the best quarterbacks in fantasy for the last 5 weeks. Unreal what he has been doing. We know he's got Justin Jefferson, top-notch receiver, probably one of the best in the league. Jordan Addison is on fire right now. You can't stop him. He's been better than Justin Jefferson lately. I'm not going to say he is better, but he's been better for fantasy, and he's been better lately as well. So you add in Hawkinson. Aaron Jones has actually been struggling a little bit, so they've been having to lean on this past game a little bit more. I really like Sam Darnold. I like Bo Nix in this matchup as well. But I'm going to go with Sam Darnold. I know it's Chicago, and I know it looks scary, but we've seen Chicago give up a few big games, lately on defense. So I'm not as scared off by them as, I think some might be.
Yeah, and I pretty much agree with you on this one. So even though the Bears are the third toughest matchup for QBs, last 5 weeks, according to Fantasy Points, they're the 13th best matchup, schedule adjusted, past 5 weeks. So they have been more vulnerable to the pass. And believe it or not, and this is why, they
allowed 21 points to Sam Darnold just 3 weeks ago.
And this is,
there you go.
This is part of the reason why I like Tua more than Bo Nix in the previous question. Because I was thinking of this stat. Darnold the past 4 weeks is actually averaging more rushing yards than Bo Nix. That was what Bo Nix was doing a lot early in the beginning of the year.
I wrote down the same thing.
So, I know Tua doesn't run the ball, but he's just throwing the ball so much better to where it's better than Bo Nix. And if we're not getting the rushing yards from Bo Nix, give me the upside with Tua in that situation. But Sam Darnold over Bo Nix.
Here's something. I'm looking at the quarterbacks Chicago has played, right? And when you look at who they played early on and why we thought they were such a great defense, Will Levis, okay. CJ Stroud in week 2, we thought shutting him down was great. Apparently not, because he's not been.
That was with Nico Collins, though.
But still, even with Nico Collins, CJ Stroud has not been awesome, right? So whatever, that was still 14, almost 15 points. So that's probably fine. Anthony Richardson, that was early in the season, terrible. Matt Stafford without Puka Nacua and Kupp. Andy Dalton and Bryce Young, gross.
Oh my God.
Trevor Lawrence put up 18, so not great. Then Daniels was good. They shut down Kyler Murray, but then it's just been the floodgates out. Drake May they shut down a little bit, but then it's been the floodgates. Then it's real quarterbacks. Jordan Love,
Hail Mary,
Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy got him last week. I think Chicago's defense has been figured out, and they're seeing much better quarterbacks.
And this is why this topic keeps coming up, because it's season long. If you look at it, they look a lot better on paper. But then when you look at the actual matchups and the quarterbacks they played, you start to see that maybe there was a reason for this. I also agree with you guys. I had Darnold over Bo Nix. Surprisingly, Darnold's rushed 25 times over the past 5 weeks for 74 yards, which was surprising to me when I saw that. And he's also thrown 11 touchdowns over the past 5 weeks, which is fantastic. So I touchdown upside, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Sam Darnold currently have this little mind meld going on. Watching the game last week, you saw him chuck the ball down to Addison, and he underthrew him 2 or 3 times, but Addison just stopped, turned around, came back. It looked crazy.
The underthrow almost helped him score the one time. Okay.
I know. And it's just like they're so on the same page right now. Maybe they're having breakfast together, like a Cooper Kupp and Stafford moment, but like, who knows? But especially with Hawkinson continuing to get healthier, having a third weapon in this offense, I'm definitely rolling with Darnold.
Yeah, look, there's a reason why. So we have our fantasy points against on here. And I know that the text is going to be really small, but we break it down. We have it broken down by week. We don't just put the average on there. So you can sort of see the trends where if you look at Chicago, it's a lot of single digits early on. And then it's a lot of double digits going on after that. So that's what you've really got to look at. So this is the perfect conversation here and question to kind of back that whole point up. I do like it. So back to the
sometimes
question.
I get lucky.
I like it. All right. So we got our what?
I was just gonna say, so for this one, Carly, with the three options, we go with a start 2 and sit 1 for this.
Actually,
one.
we should probably jump.
I have watched the pod, so I actually did know that.
Well,
and
for everybody
for that.
Awesome. For everybody who's first tuning in, we start 2, sit 1.
Well, let's get to some of these live questions here. We got a few piling up here. We got Glenn asking Ramondre, Ladd, or Zay Flowers. My answer would be Ladd if he plays.
Yes, 100%.
Wise. I have to look.
Who does
I lean.
this week?
I do lean.
Oh, they have
They have Arizona. Arizona's defense has been.
I don't think Flowers is going to be necessary versus the Giants. I think it's going to be the Derrick Henry show, and maybe a Mark Andrews touchdown. But otherwise, I just think it's going to be the Derrick Henry show.
Ladd if he's active, Ramondre if he's not.
Yeah,
I think so. I think you have a safer floor with Ramondre for sure.
I agree with that. What's it, Cameron Brate? No. No. My tight end, and actually it may not have been Winston at this point. I forget. Oh, it was Fitzpatrick and Gesicki. That's who it was. It wasn't Winston. The other gunslinger. There you go. It was Fitzpatrick and Gesicki, and I had Gesicki. And Gesicki scored 3 touchdowns that week. Fitzpatrick threw 3 touchdowns. They just went all over my guys. So yeah, good call on the camera break though. Part of my decision on tonight, opponent had Kyron versus Jennings. So after tonight, I'm forced to win by a bunch. I'll probably go with Monty. I don't know if you're gonna have to be forced to win by a bunch. This game is not
favored to win.
Yeah, I mean it's not good. I mean we're looking at a bunch of field goals. So there you go.
Yeah.
Unless I mean,
there goes Kyron.
The Rams are in the red zone, so maybe not. Here we go. Derek still see a lot of questions by. All right, I think we're caught up. So next question here again. It's pick 2, sit 1. We got James Cook versus the. I got the wrong slide up here. Mike, I'm so used to you doing this. James Cook at Detroit. Brian Robinson Jr. at New Orleans. Chuba Hubbard versus Dallas. Pick 2, sit 1. Carly, you get first bid on this one.
All right, so let's start with Brian Robinson Jr. He's got a smash matchup against this New Orleans Saints defense who couldn't tackle my grandma if they tried, which is sad because I'm actually in New Orleans. No hate, love you. But the Saints won't be able to do anything with Jake Haener behind center. Like, this is going to be a slog fest. It's going to be a lot of once Washington scores a touchdown or two, whether it's Brian Robinson Jr. or not, he's going to get all the work. He only played 47% of snaps last week, but still finishes the RB12, putting up 16 carries. He put up 103 yards and a touchdown, which is pretty impressive. Then Chuba Hubbard, Dallas their defense has gotten healthier, but I still think he is now alone. Jonathan Brooks unfortunately retore his ACL, which is just devastating and tragic, but he is alone. Like, there is no one else, and he is going to get 97 to 100% of that backfield. I trust him to get it done against Dallas. I don't trust Bryce Young as much, so I think that they're going to be running the ball. And as we mentioned earlier, James Cook has a awful matchup against Detroit, who ranks top 3 in rush defense. And I honestly think that if anyone's going to be successful on the ground, it's going to be Josh Allen. It's not going to be James Cook. So I am definitely all in on Brian Robinson Jr. and Chuba Hubbard.
Let's get another Josh Allen 3 rushing touchdown week.
Yeah.
My dynasty team would love that because my super flex quarterback options are Cooper Rush or Kirk Cousins. So Josh Allen, please save me.
Please and thank you. Another 50 points.
No, I need to stay alive in Scott Fishbowl. That's not going to help me, man. I don't have anybody that's going to. I'm going to lose Walker. I'm going to lose Parker. Not Parker. What am I thinking? The Pittsburgh wide receiver. Pickens. Parker.
He's already doubtful. He's already gone.
Oh, they're gone. Yeah. And now I'm going to probably lose Njoku.
It doesn't sound promising for Njoku.
I've at least got Andrews to fill in for Njoku, but to have Njoku and Andrews in that scoring format was gold. Yeah. I'm hoping for a miracle at this point. Oh, well. All right. Mike, are you next or am I next? I lose track of who goes.
I'll take it next. And I'm pretty much just following what Carly is going with. I'm sitting James Cook in this scenario. It's a lot of what she said, but main thing I personally lean on is volume. And in another universe, if Jonathan Brooks did not tear his ACL again, I would probably be leaning James Cook in this scenario over Chuba because of the split workload that was unfolding in the Panthers backfield. But unfortunately, we live in the world where he did tear his ACL again. Best of luck, coming back. But that one's an injury where we might not see him for possibly 2 years. So Chuba Hubbard's an automatic lock in this situation. And then Brian Robinson just has too good of a matchup. It is, just like Carly said, when the Commanders get up, they just hand the ball off. I mean, Jeremy McNichols is like, if you're a desperate person and you're, down bad and, injuries are hitting you, I think Jeremy McNichols is even viable option against this matchup against New Orleans.
Careful, though. If they get up too big, they're just going to bench everybody, and it's going to be Chris Rodriguez. Because that's what happened 3 weeks ago, and everybody was like, who? What? 12 carries? Yeah. In all the fourth quarter. No, I'm with both of you. Chuba is way up here for me. Brian Robinson, and then it's Cook. It's pretty easy for me.
But who thought in week 15 we'd be starting Chuba Hubbard over James Cook? So hurtful.
No, absolutely not. I mean, although Chuba Hubbard might be my saving grace in Scott Fish because I did draft him super late. That was kind of I'll just take the volume. There's nobody else, right? I didn't really.
Yeah, I mean, for like everybody who gives out fantasy awards for kind of like sleeper of the year, I mean, this kind of can put Chuba back in the running, honestly, down the stretch with the amount of work he's going to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, Dallas is not a good run defense, not a good defense really in general. They've been better lately, but we just saw Chase Brown just have his way with them, and Chuba Hubbard can do pretty much the same thing. So yeah, I'm with both of you on that one. Next up.
Yeah, next one. This one, I figured I'd put the waiver wire darling in there. But Joe, you get Isiah McCormick versus the Falcons, Isiah Pacheco versus the Browns, and Tyrone Tracy Jr. versus the Ravens. Fight.
These are all pretty close here for me. I'm actually gonna lean Pacheco. He hasn't been great yet, but I really liked the usage he got last game. It was a lot more in his favor than I really thought we were gonna get. It's super close between Tracy and McCormick. I just gotta believe that with the Giants having to pass the ball so much in this game, Tyrone Tracy is a very good pass catching back. He came out of college. He was a receiver at one point in college. We've seen it. He can make it work there. So I'm gonna lean Tracy over McCormick. Maybe the safe play is McCormick because you got to think the volume's going to go his way. Although if Madison's healthy, I wonder how much they're really going to back up the whole this is really his backfield. Really? I mean, Madison was good when he was healthy. So I don't know. Pacheco's the easy one for me. And then slight lean toward Tracy.
So I'm going to fight with you on this.
Okay.
Because I actually have them in the reverse order. I would start Tracy and McCormick over Pacheco. I don't like Pacheco's matchup at all against Cleveland, and I don't think that Kansas City is going to get it done on the ground this week. I think that Mahomes is finally going to have one of his top 5, top 10 weeks again, probably the third one on the year. He'll rely on Kelsey and Hopkins and Xavier Worthy rather than checking it down as much. Pacheco's still getting healthier. And I think that in terms of volume, McCormick is going to get it all. I think I saw some comments that Antonio Pierce came out and said that Madison was potentially healthy enough to play last week, but they wanted to rest him. And then he said that McCormick is the number 1 RB in this offense. I think he's all in on him right now. I think even if Madison were to play, it's going to be McCormick, and he's been extremely efficient on the ground. And with how behind the Giants are going to be, if Tommy DeVito can learn to check the ball down, it's going to be all Tracy, because I don't even think he's going to have enough time to get it to Nabers. He's going to be flat on his back. So, for those reasons, I think that Tracy and McCormick are going to be integral to these two awful backup quarterbacks who are going to be looking for these running backs to help them out.
Yeah, this one was a tough one for me. I think Tracy's the automatic lock because of, whether it's half PPR or PPR, the man's involved in the passing game, 10 targets last week. I know it's a different QB that we're going to get this week in, what's his face? I want to say Ben DiNucci, but I know it ain't Ben DiNucci. Tommy Cutlets.
True lock.
I know that name. But I lean Tracy as my lock here because when you're getting 10 targets a game, I just can't pass up on that volume. And then I was between Pacheco and McCormick, and here's the thing. I'm looking at it, technically Pacheco has had more volume slightly over McCormick, but we got the news that McCormick is going to be the starter this week. So there's hopes here for more involvement in the passing game because he hasn't been involved in the passing game the past 3 weeks, only getting 5 targets. And that's where, Pacheco has seen 10 targets the past 3 weeks, and the usage is trending upward for him as well. So my brain says Pacheco, but my heart, I love the story of McCormick. My heart wants to put in McCormick, but I think Pacheco, I have to lean Pacheco because of just the increasage in the usage. And we're just hoping for more increasage in, McCormick's usage.
Like a new SAT word I don't know about. That's a cool one, man.
But yeah, it's the hope that we're going to see McCormick more involved where we have been seeing Pacheco actually get more involved. And that's where I kind of lean the safe rather than being sorry.
Yeah. I think, Tyler, I was going to bring this up. Atlanta, it looks like a tasty matchup on paper, but if you really look into it, they're not. They can shut down the run. They've been pretty good at it all year and even recently. And Vegas is now possibly looking at a third-string quarterback who is terrible. How much do we really believe this offense can even move the ball? I know Tracy's kind of dealing with the same thing, but we've seen it from Tracy already. So I'm gonna lean on those two on the bottom of the screen here. Pacheco and Tracy.
But this is where the sample size comes in because over the past 8 weeks, Atlanta ranks 13th versus running backs, not 5th. So it's gotten worse.
The matchup does benefit McCormick if he gets involved in the passing game, because Atlanta is 3rd in the league in giving up receptions to running backs, 72 receptions on the year. So if he can get involved in the passing game, that's what's going to unlock him.
Yeah. So,
but is he going to get involved? That's what concerns me.
Can Desmond Ridder check down the ball before he gets absolutely trampled?
I don't know. Can it?
Does he know to go here to here? I don't know if he can do that.
It might be a tall ask,
to our next question here, and move on to some wide receivers. And again, this is a start 2, sit 1 scenario here, Carly. So we've got Malik Nabers versus Baltimore, Zay Flowers at the Giants, the same game here, and then Garrett Wilson at the Jags. Am I first up on this one? Did I just ask myself my own question, Mike?
Well, yeah, you
Just
did.
take it.
You seem to be on a roll.
I thought we were gonna play this out a little bit better. Apparently, we didn't. So, all right, we're good. We'll figure this out.
We adapt. We adapt.
So as much as I don't want to use Nabers this week, it is going to be sit Zay Flowers. Look, Breece Hall is looking like honestly, I think he's going to be shut down the rest of the year. There's literally no reason to bring him back. This team is going absolutely nowhere. And they're saying there's complications with his knee injury here. And so I know he wants to come back, but the team needs to be smart and keep him off the field and not risk further injury. Malik Nabers, yes, is dealing with DeVito. It's not good, but the volume is still there for him. Zay Flowers, we've already said it. This could literally be like he gets 4 targets in the first quarter and a half, and then it is going to be 45 runs between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. That is it. That's all we're going to get. I cannot play Zay Flowers over these two who are going to see just a ton of volume.
I agree. And I just thought of something, because if you need someone, Justice Hill, if he's out there, could get involved in the second half if this game gets out of hand, because Derrick Henry doesn't need to do it all himself. As you were talking about with Brian Robinson Jr. and Jeremy McNichols, this is another opportunity for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, desperation dart throws. I mean, hopefully you don't need it with the bye weeks over, but we know we've been.
It's more of a dynasty kind of take.
Wow, we've been crushed by running back injuries the last couple of weeks, so maybe.
True.
Maybe
it might be a 14-team deeper cut.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mike?
I'm. Oh, go ahead, Carly. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say I completely agree with what Joe said. I mean, Malik, with last time he played with DeVito, 13 targets, 8 catches, 69 yards, a lot of PPR upside. It's gonna be rough to watch. I don't recommend you do watch it if you start him. And then Garrett Wilson hasn't scored a touchdown since week 9. I think he's kind of due for one. Over the past 2 weeks, he's seen 10 targets a game. Last week, he was 7 for 114, and I absolutely trust him to get it done in this matchup where, like you said, Breece Hall is not healthy. Braylon Allen, who I love because I went to Wisconsin, and Isaiah Davis are fine. And I would love to see Braylon absolutely go beast mode, but I don't think that this is going to be his season to do that. Maybe I'll be wrong and it'll be fun. But Zay Flowers just is not going to see the kind of volume you want for these two.
Yeah, it's a shame Zay Flowers doesn't play the Bengals every week, because that's when you really want to start him. But I'm with
receiver.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Any receiver, but it is one of those things where the Ravens just do what they need to do to get the win. And against the Giants, they're not going to need Zay Flowers. So if he does score, it's going to be in the first quarter. And if he doesn't score in the first quarter, you're going to hate your life afterwards. So I know starting Malik Nabers, you've been pretty much, throwing up each week. But Joe and Carly are right. I mean, he's seeing 10 plus targets a game. Like you can't sit that, even if it is Tommy DeVito throwing you the ball. It at least puts him in flex territory, possibly low end wide receiver 3 territory. I know ECR has him 21, but when you're having that type of volume, even with a bad QB, you're still in that wide receiver 3 worst case scenario for me. And then
I've
Garrett
still got
Wilson
him up at wide receiver 17. That's
really
PPR. It's just the volume.
Well, in PPR, I could see it. I think these are half PPR.
This is half. Yeah. I'm still right there.
Man, it's
rough. It's not easy, but the volume's there.
You put him in your lineup and you just don't watch the game.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, and you're not watching the Jets game either, so you start Wilson and don't watch that game. But I am sitting Zay Flowers this week. When you have two options like this.
Yep.
But we'll move on to our next question.
AJ, you're alive. What's up, man?
Actually,
how's Allen Iverson?
Actually, we do have one question here before we move on. Might as well answer it for Brandon here. PPR start 2. He's got Downs, Mooney, and Tillman. Did Downs
Downs healthy?
Yeah,
it looks like he will be. I'm gonna sit Tillman. I don't even know if Tillman's healthy, to be honest.
Well, Tillman's actually trending.
Tillman got in a full practice.
Okay.
Yes,
I think Downs is trending up too. This is here, Matt. Who has died on your team? You got into the playoffs with this? Yikes.
Quick answer, Mooney
I'm sitting
and
Tillman
for me.
I'd lead Mooney and Tillman. You're sitting Tillman though, and you're gonna go Downs and Mooney.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mooney's an easy one.
What was Downs'
assuming he's
again?
healthy, because he apparently just popped up on the injury report.
I think it was a
he's
shoulder.
been dealing with like a calf.
I don't know. It's questionable, but like it's just. I looked at a couple of my teams and like everyone's like questionable. My daughter, who's playing for the first time, she got the first seed of the playoffs. She's like, my whole team's hurt. I'm like, you're not playing this week. She goes, oh yeah.
She got the bye. Good for her.
Oh my gosh, yes. She is.
You should get her on the pod. We could probably learn a thing
gloating
or two.
about it every day, every time she can, and I don't blame her.
I don't blame her.
I still remember what you told me when you beat her, and she walks in the next day. She goes, "Yeah, but who's still number 1, Dad?"
Oh yeah, she had gone undefeated. Probably, yeah. So she was undefeated up until she played me, and I'm her first loss. And so she comes downstairs, and I was like, "So, how you feeling?" She goes, I'm still number 1. I'm like, touche. I got nothing to say about that.
It looks like Downs was dealing with a right AC joint sprain.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, Tillman's only coming back from a concussion, and I say only because once you're cleared, you're cleared.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but once you're cleared, you're cleared. It's not going to impact anything. It's not going to impact your ability to catch the ball. So that's why I lean Mooney, who's seeing crazy usage from Kirk. He doesn't matter how many interceptions he throws, he still throws the ball to Darnold Mooney a lot.
More targets than
Jamie. To your question, does she use my rankings? She does not use my weekly rankings. There's really, I mean, ESPN League. If she's got her team, they're good. It doesn't really matter. But in the draft, she did use my rankings, and so that was.
Did she use the cheat sheet?
No, I just gave her my rankings list and let her. It's first time playing; she barely knows who anybody is. So I was like, "Here, you can have these." So now next year I'm gonna be like, "You're on your own." If she wins the league, like, no thanks.
Speaking of Darnold Mooney, though, he was my favorite late round draft this year.
Yeah, I got him
because he went under the radar for everybody. And I'm like, who's going to be the number 2 receiver in Atlanta? There's got to be someone. It's going to be Mooney. Why not throw him on the end of your bench?
Yeah. Yeah.
We know it ain't Kyle Pitts. That's for sure.
Scampers, what's up, man? It's been a long time. Glad to have you here. Gotta give her fake rankings. Punk my 11-year-old daughter next year. That'd be pretty awesome.
She would never forgive you.
Oh my gosh. No. Although it was kind of funny during the draft. So she goes,
nice, Jamie.
LaPlant. In the middle of the draft, so we use kickers, and we got a lot of people in our league, family league. They're all Ravens fans, so they love to take Justin Tucker pretty early. So she sees all these kicker stars going off the board. She's in the other room with my wife, and she goes, It's like round 8 or 9 or I don't know, maybe 10 at the latest.
Way too early for kickers.
And she goes, can I draft a kicker already? And I was like, what? She goes, can I draft a kicker? And my wife immediately goes, yeah, if you want to. And I went, no. She goes, click. She goes, oh, oops. I'm like, oh.
Who did she draft?
She drafted Harrison Butker, who actually was good until he got hurt. But like, I think she's starting to figure out because he got hurt, and she's replaced him with like 3 different kickers at this point who are all doing the exact same. I think she's figured out that they don't. So
I never
lesson learned. Yeah, lesson learned.
That's when you tell her, listen to mommy about everything else in life, but when it comes to fantasy football, listen to me.
Correct. All right, let's move on here. So second for receiver question here.
All right, and Carly, I'll let you go first on this one. You got DK Metcalf versus the Packers, Calvin Ridley versus the Bengals, and Jakobi Meyers versus the Falcons. Fight.
So, talking about popping up on the injury report, DK Metcalf, I was informed earlier, like an hour before the show, was downgraded to a limited participant today. Could totally be a rest thing. It's the same shoulder issue he's been dealing with, but it's definitely something to monitor because he just hasn't looked the same, and I wonder if this injury is kind of playing into that and why they're targeting JSN so much. We'll get back to DK Metcalf, though, because I want to start with Calvin Ridley, who has absolutely been a ball hog since DeAndre Hopkins left this team. He has a 27.6% target share in that time, and last week he saw 37.5% of the team's targets, and no other Titan saw above a 12.5% target share. Like, that gap is insane. So he is Will Levis's favorite target. I don't care how bad you think Will Levis is. This is where the ball is going. He has immense PPR upside, and he gets a smash matchup against Cincinnati. So Calvin Ridley, absolute lock. Jakobi Meyers has a fantastic matchup. Atlanta ranks dead last versus wide receiver over the past 8 weeks, schedule adjusted, and if it wasn't Desmond Ridder, this would be a lot easier. Over the past 3 weeks, he's seen double-digit targets in every single game. And he's caught 10 of them in week 12. He caught 10 targets for 121 yards. Week 13, 6 catches for 97. Week 14, 7 for 67. Like, he's been crushing it. But it's Desmond Ridder, so it's terrifying, and the matchup is great, but it's terrifying. DK Metcalf, on the other hand, has a terrible matchup versus Green Bay, who ranks 3rd against wide receivers over the past 8 weeks. He only has 4 catches a game over the past 3 weeks and hasn't scored since week 7. He also hasn't broke 100 yards receiving since week 4. They are clearly using JSN a lot. As a DK Metcalf manager throughout this season, I am frustrated, and I think that would bias me a little in this, but I'm starting Calvin Ridley and Jakobi Meyers over DK Metcalf, and I know that that's spicy, but sometimes you got to spice up your life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on this one, and I didn't know about the news about DK being a limited participant.
I didn't see that either.
You could honestly say he's been a limited participant on the year with how he's been performing. So, like, but with this news, I kind of just lean the Myers route even more because I think Ridley's the automatic lock in this one. I mean, Will Levis is the Walmart brand Jameis Winston. He's going to probably throw a pick 6 or fumble,
that was awesome.
allow some points, and it's just going to cause Will Levis to have to throw more, which Carly alluded to. The target share is astronomical right now for Ridley, so he's an automatic
absolutely
lock.
bonkers.
And you are so right. Desmond Ridder scares the hell out of me. But we talked about the trends, like, in the first 7 weeks, Geno Smith, I believe, was number 1 in passing attempts in the NFL. And this is what we really, gave appeal to DK Metcalf and why we were still, trying to hop on that bandwagon, even though it never formulated into what we wanted it to be. But the last, 7 weeks, Geno Smith has not been throwing the ball as much. I believe I saw it was 21st in passing attempts the last 7 weeks. So it's a complete inverse. Like we looked at the Chargers in the beginning of the year and they were just running it. And then lately they've been passing it. Well, the Seahawks are pulling the opposite here where they've passed it. Now they're just running it, relying on their defense. So it's Jakobi Meyers slightly over Metcalf, even though the ECR doesn't say that.
I'm still going Ridley and DK. I just can't do it with Ritter.
You can have your 4 receptions.
If Aiden O'Connell starts, we're talking a different story. I'm not banking on Aiden O'Connell playing, although it's not out of the question yet. But if it's Desmond Ritter, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm terrified for even Brock Bowers. There's just not a lot to like there. So I know Metcalf has been a major disappointment. I have him in a few places. So I'm with you, but it's Ridley and Metcalf for me here. So,
well, we disagree with you.
Okay,
so we'll move on to the next one.
All right, next one up here. We've got, where did my sheet go?
You got the banner. Go off that.
Adam Thielen versus Dallas. Jameson Williams, Mike's favorite player, versus Buffalo. Yes. Even though he's a Packers fan. Or Marvin Harrison Jr. versus the Patriots. Mike, I believe this one's yours.
Yeah, and I totally made these questions not thinking I would be answering them. So this one tears me apart because I love Marvin Harrison Jr. too, and he's been just absolutely brutal. And I think I know you're not going to agree with me on this one, Joe, but I think I set Marvin Harrison Jr. in this situation because even though Jameson Williams is not typically the volume play, the last 4 weeks, he has been seeing volume, 7 targets a game. And
stole the words out of my mouth.
So he is kind of changing the narrative a little bit. I mean, at any point we could probably see the floor fall out with another Sam LaPorta 2-touchdown week. But I'm going to play the odds here, and I'm going to go with what we're seeing the last 4 weeks, and I'm going to start Jameson Williams over Harrison. And I can't sit Adam Thielen right now, whether it's half PPR or PPR, with the amount of volume he's seeing and the fact that, what Carly alluded to earlier, Leggett can't catch the ball. And you think that, better that
Chuba
put 3
Hubbard
mil? Yes, Chuba can. Chuba definitely can. You think that better that put 3 mil on the Eagles sent Leggett, like a little gift basket after that one for dropping that touchdown? Because I don't know how he dropped that. I mean, outside of just being a rookie wide receiver, man, that was beautifully thrown by Bryce Young. He's been playing so much better as of late. So I'm sitting Marvin Harrison Jr. because apparently Michael Wilson is Kyler Murray's best friend.
Am I next?
So you go.
I don't know, whatever. I'll make it quick. I'm sitting Thielen. Look, Mike, you said it. Jameson Williams is getting way more volume, averaging, he was, before he got hurt or suspended, it was like 3-4 3-4 targets a game at most. Come back and had been around 7 almost every game. And he's still got that like boom potential, like with every single play. We've noticed a trend. Like, this is what I do, right? This is my users article. We've noticed a trend with Marvin Harrison. 1 week he scores, 1 week he doesn't. 1 week he scores, 1 week he doesn't. 1 week he gets 5 receptions or 6 receptions and over 70 yards and a touchdown. Next week he
sounds
doesn't.
like you're.
This
sounds
is
like
the week he's
Jameson
back
Williams
on to over 5, over 60 yards and a touchdown. It's science. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's totally crazy, but it is what it is. And look, they're getting the Patriots. The
matchup is the get right.
I'm gonna go back in with that one here.
I swear to God, you were describing Jameson Williams for the first half of the season right there when you were just describing Marvin Harrison. He's been on, he's been off, he's been on, he's been off.
Jameson Williams was like 40 points, 20 points, 40 points, 3. It was like crazy. But
that sounds like Marv, man. But
Marvin Harrison is literally every other week. Go look at his box scores. It's nuts. So we're back to I think it was what's his name? Fantasy Life guy. I forget his name right now. I'm blanking on it, but he posted a tweet about it. I was already kind of thinking it, but yeah, it's true. For some reason, it's weird. Harrison has 0 games between 15 and 19, yet he's always projected in that range. It's because he's either way over it or way under it.
That's funny.
That's what projections will do.
A good example of why projections are just projections. They don't matter that much.
So I actually have a different answer than both of you. I'm sitting JMO because this one for me, it was Thielen was a lock, and then I was between Marvin Harrison and JMO. And Marvin Harrison just has the better matchup. And I think that, like I mentioned earlier, rookie wide receivers tend to do better second half of the season. I think we all looked at Marvin Harrison Jr. with these crazy expectations coming into the season. He was drafted at the 1-2 turn. Absurd. Way too high. Should never have happened. But I think that now
we're all
we might
hoping
actually
Justin Jefferson return.
Yeah, not that soon. But someone like Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't break out until right during the fantasy playoffs was his breakout of his rookie year. I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. has the opportunity to potentially pull an Amon-Ra St. Brown and maybe win people some championships. So I'm starting Thielen and I'm starting Marvin Harrison Jr. and I'm sitting JMO just because of the volatility and because of the tough matchup.
I will say this, as far as the recent trends go that are in favor of Marvin Harrison, the Cardinals are throwing the ball more. I saw this. AJ, you got to come on the show if you want that to happen. The first half of the season, the Cardinals were running the ball a lot. But as of late, Kyler Murray is 6th in passing attempts the last 4 weeks. So that is a benefit to Marvin. It's just the one fear I do have is if the Cardinals get up big, they're still going to want to run the ball. And I don't know if Marvin Harrison gets involved too much.
That's fair.
But I mean, this is what's nice about it. This is why I like this segment that we made because, I mean, yes, we can have clean sweeps, but it doesn't mean we're going to be right. There's going to be, differing answers here, but it's all about, just getting as many opinions as possible to formulate your own opinion. I think that's the best way to attack fantasy football.
Agreed. All right, Mike, you want to ask our tight end question here?
Not really, because they're so boring, but okay. Joe, you can start off since it has to deal with your team. You got Zach Ertz versus the Saints or Sam LaPorta versus the Bills. Fight.
I'm gonna reluctantly say Sam LaPorta. I do really think we're gonna get a little bit of a higher volume passing game out of the Lions than we expect in this one. They're gonna have to be able to keep up with the Bills, and I think game script sort of is in the favor of the Commanders to run the ball a lot. We expect them to get up. I mean, we were already talking about it. That's why we like Chris Rodriguez, kind of a joke, but like that's why we mentioned him, right? I mean, it's like a legit thing. He's probably going to get touches because they should get up big. And if that happens, Zach Ertz is not going to be that safe volume tight end that we've been used to. So game script says use LaPorta, even though he hasn't been what we all hope this year. Just got to hope he catches a touchdown. So,
all right. I mean, I pressed the right. Yeah, I did press the right button because I was definitely going to unmute myself. Carly, would you like to go or I can go?
You go ahead.
All right. So I will not reluctantly say Sam LaPorta. I will go Zach Ertz on this one, and it's all because of volume for me. I know you're projecting more. No, you're projecting more volume here, and I get that. And I had the same argument with Sincere McCormick. But Zach Ertz is actually seeing more volume, and he does have 3 touchdowns out of the last 4 games. So Daniels is looking to him in the red zone. He is getting more volume. He is getting the third down looks as well, where the Lions may not need LaPorta for 3/4 of the season. They haven't.
So it's funny because both tight ends have actually seen 5+ targets in every game over the past 4 weeks. And they're both being looked at in the red zone. Like LaPorta has that crazy stat line from week 13, 3 catches for 6 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Mike Evans.
But you can get something like that out of LaPorta. And I I agree with Joe here. I'm going LaPorta because I just don't think that Zach Ertz is going to be necessary for this offense. I think Terry does it. I think Brian Robinson Jr. does it. And I don't think that they're going to need him. And I think LaPorta, with the passing volume, with the potential red zone targets, is going to have a higher upside for you this week. Ertz always has that safe floor, but if it's fantasy playoffs, I'm going LaPorta.
Yeah, and LaPorta definitely offers the higher ceiling here. This is always one where I always just chase volume. That's my reluctancy, because sometimes, I don't chase volume, and I will play Jameson Williams on the weeks where he isn't getting volume, and it bites me in the butt. So then that's why I keep falling back on volume, and I just feel safe with Zach Ertz, as stupid as that sounds, in 2024. But LaPorta, as much as he can give you that, 3 receptions for 2 touchdowns, and that Mike Evans type of stat line, I just don't want to take the risk in the fantasy playoffs 1 week and you're out. If he doesn't do that for you, I mean, just give me the solid 8 points that I'm going to get from Zach Ertz.
All right. Up to our last question here.
Yeah, and this one's a fun one. I started off doing this, putting some, like minor flexes. Now I wanted to crank up the volume here. And I wanted to give you a harder question. And Carly, you can start us off here. You got David Montgomery versus the Bills. Juicy matchup. Another juicy matchup, though, with Courtland Sutton versus the Colts. Who do you want to sit? Who do you want to start?
So when I first looked at this question, all I wrote down was start both. But that's how you know it's a good question. If you have this issue on your team, good for you. But no, I mean, the volume that the volume that both of them have been seeing has been insane. Courtland Sutton has had 11 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets, 9 targets. He's had over 100 yards receiving in 3 of his last 6 games. So he's had 3 touchdowns in that same span, which isn't fantastic, but pretty great. And it's just like, he's playing so well right now. He's the only one that Bo Nix clearly trusts, and he's the best wide receiver and honestly best player on that roster. So, because they don't have I know I listened to a little bit of last week when you guys were talking about Jaleel Vontae Estime.
Good AJ quote
and
there.
Yeah, and it's true. Their run game is non-existent. They might get Marvin Mims involved in the running game. Like, who knows what's going on there? Courtland Sutton is that offense. The Lions can do it without David Montgomery. And that's why I give the slight edge in a great matchup to Courtland Sutton, because I just think he's too necessary for the Broncos. Whereas the Lions have so many pieces. It could be a Gibbs touchdown. It could be an Amon-Ra St. Brown touchdown. It could be a LaPorta touchdown. It could be a Jared Goff quarterback sneak touchdown. Like, you never know what's going to happen. And while David Montgomery is definitely a safer floor, I think that in the fantasy playoffs, I would start Sutton.
Yeah, and I'll go Joe next. This is one of those ones, like you said, Carly. I'm trying to start both if I can't. And if you're dealing with this, your team is in a pretty good position, and that does play into my factors of who I want to start. Because if I have this good of a team, I already got a pretty safe floor. All right, I got a pretty safe floor already. And Montgomery is the safer player in this scenario. He's pretty much guaranteed a touchdown every week. So, like, couple that with the 4 targets a game he's seen the past 4 weeks. He's got that safe 10-point floor for you. But like you alluded, Carly, Courtland Sutton's ceiling right now with Bo Nix. The Denver Broncos are still fighting for that 7th spot in the AFC playoffs. I just see Courtland Sutton as more of a necessity in this Denver Broncos run or push to the playoffs, where the Lions are already locked up. Man, if Montgomery is not needed, there's not going to be any use of Montgomery in the second half, where
they
they're probably
still want that number 1 seed though, so they can't
I get
the
that.
Chiefs, they can't take the foot off the pedal all the way.
I get that, but if I was the Lions and with the way how Dan Campbell carries that team, I think they can go in anywhere, and they think that they can go in anywhere and beat any team.
All right. So I'm going to put a little caveat on this. If it's half PPR, I'm going David Montgomery. And that's what I typically use answer these with.
That's your cop out.
It's half PPR. But
It
full
depends.
PPR, it is yes. It is completely and heavily in Sutton's favor. Like you were talking about how Montgomery was being used in the pass game more. Look, that's not going to counter what Sutton's usage is in the pass game. My thing is that I trust Montgomery to score more than I do Sutton. So give me that touchdown, almost locked in touchdown, basically, for David Montgomery over 10, 12 targets for Sutton. I'd rather have the touchdown, which is 6, that's 6 catches. So you're going to need a lot from Sutton to make up a full touchdown and more for Montgomery.
Or you get a 60-yard bomb. It's a 15-point play and you're done.
Sure. I mean, I get it. I mean, Sutton's got that, that potential to do it, but half PPR, it's heavily leaning in Montgomery's favor. Full PPR, it's the other way for me.
I understand that's your cop out with the half PPR. Well, my cop out is, and you've heard me say it plenty of times on the Sunday social show. If you had to play somebody in a Thursday matchup and you're down chasing points, give me Courtland Sutton. But if you want to play it safe, give me David Montgomery. The higher ceiling is Sutton, but the safer floor is Montgomery. That's my cop out.
Jamie, I'm very interested to read your article. So Jamie put a comment here for those that's listening. Sutton is in my article this week. He's going to smash. Jamie writes a cornerback or wide receiver versus cornerback article every week, goes out Friday morning, where he talks about receivers in good or bad matchups, against corners. And then also the IDP flip side of that, where it's corners that are going to have plus minus matchups versus receivers, right? Or teams. So I'm curious because I'm looking at DVOA, where Indy is kind of middle of the road against wide receiver ones. So it's not a smash matchup to me. It's a good matchup. It's not a smash matchup to me. But so I'm curious. I'm very interested. I'm going to read that tomorrow for sure because I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that one.
I'm wondering how much he had to dig into that article for the cornerbacks.
Oh, he is. He digs into those stats a lot.
I mean, as much as I like to tout my knowledge about the NFL, I can't name a single cornerback right now for the Colts.
That's why I don't play IDP.
Oh, for the Colts.
For the Colts, for the Colts. I mean, that's why I wonder how much digging he had to do to actually look up, what were the cornerbacks for the Colts in this matchup.
All right, so we're going to finish up, sit here with one question from the crowd. And Carlos, should I bench Kamara this week? No.
For who?
No.
You asked the right question. It's for who. And Kamara did drop in my rankings after the very disappointing usage last week. And the trend is that he's not getting usage in the red zone inside the 10-yard line. There's more to it. I'll get into it. It is one of my observations that I was going to bring up. So I'll get into it more, but you've got to have a good player. Kamara's still going to get a lot of usage within the 20s.
I will say, I don't know if this is going to touch on your topic, but without Derek Carr, he has not been good at all.
Yeah,
Kamara this season.
That's
so true. I understand where the question is coming from. It just depends on what your other options are. Is he going to be the Kamara that you drafted? No, not even close. He's going to be a low end RB2 in my opinion, but it depends.
It's funny though. That's how he got drafted.
Okay, then
right?
Fair.
That's funny though. Now that you say that, I think about where I actually did. I have him in one league, and I drafted him low in RB2.
Fair.
That's where he was going for some
reason.
That's
fair.
But that's not what we're getting.
But his ADP was way too low.
Oh, I totally agree.
I think that's where my mind was. But I think it's just he is usually a check down PPR touch machine. He is that offense. Ooh. Brian Robinson Jr. I am starting over Alvin Kamara. Locked.
Ooh. That's
I do not think in the games without Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara was awful. And it's not his fault. But it's just the fact that the Saints signed Ben DiNucci this week to their practice squad. Do you see what kind of terrible position they're in?
That's why that name was in my brain as of late.
Yes, that is exactly why.
That's tough.
The Saints made him relevant again.
Oh, that's honestly a coin flip for me, Carlos. I get the hesitation. I think I still lean Kamara, but I totally get it, and I would not blink an eye if you started Brian Robinson over Kamara. I'd probably look at it and be like, ooh, yeah, all right. I get it.
It's
Rift
very
Cup
close,
owners. Are we still at 0 targets? I looked at it earlier. You said that earlier, Tyler, and we were all like,
oh my God, the
chatting
game is
in the private chat, going like, what? Did he get hurt?
There hasn't been a single touchdown.
No, it's awful.
It's on behind me. I haven't been watching.
Yeah, it's bad, and it hasn't been raining the second half. So, like, what's going on?
Well, now it's over.
Cooper Kupp,
Oh, no,
0s.
not yet.
Goose egg. Not even a target.
Targets.
Or no, well,
3
I guess I
targets.
don't. 3 targets. Sorry, I'm looking at the box score I have is not. Yeah, this is unreal. Ooh. Bad game.
To answer that question, though, I think I lead Brian Robinson over Kamara, but it is close. I think you could probably, I think you start either one. Honestly, that's not a bad situation to be in. But I would lean Brian Robinson personally if I had that decision.
All right. Yeah, 3 targets, 0 catches, Tyler. Yeah. All right, so that is it for our start sit portion of the show. Hopefully we helped you make some decisions for your fantasy playoffs. Next, we're going to jump into some observations that we've had over the last couple of weeks, over the season, whatever it shall be. We will close the board here. And Carly, you can go first.
Okay, so one thing that we'll start with a fun one, and then we'll go to a different direction later. Will Trey McBride score a touchdown this season? 106 targets and counting. Please don't pull a Deontay Johnson. Please give this man the ball. And I mean a receiving
Cole
touchdown.
Kmet.
A fumble recovery touchdown and a rushing touchdown just do not count. He has 2, but not the kind that we're looking for.
Right.
Come on, Kyler. Throw the man the ball. For some reason, when Trey McBride is in the end zone, Kyler just goes blind. He is wide open every week in the end zone, and Kyler just sails it over his head. I don't know. Did he kill his dog or something? Like, what is going on here?
It's not fair because we got people in the league like Quentin Morris, Drew Ogletree, Connor Hayward, Cade Stover, Brock Wright. These guys all have receiving touchdowns on the year, but Trey McBride does not. That's brutal. And that's where it's like that's where I'm fearful about Marvin Harrison. And I know, he might have the spike week, but it's just like if the Cardinals get their way in the matchups they want, they run the ball and they're just trying to get out with a win, especially with how this division seems to be formulating. With the game we got unfolding right now, they're probably looking at this going, oh my gosh, guys, the division's still open here.
Yeah.
Oh, 12-6 barn burner.
The Rams just scored, 48 points, 44 points last week or whatever. Nuts.
48, yeah.
Against the Bills. They put up 12. What's happening? All right.
Week to week game.
Yeah, I mean, I think somebody brought this up last week. It's like, how much are we going to hear touchdown regression for Trey McBride next year? It's gonna be just
it's Kev's favorite thing to say,
right?
And it's true,
exactly. That's who we had on last week too. So I'm gonna have to mute the word touchdown regression on all my social medias because it's gonna be terrible. Mike, what you got, man?
So what I got here is I have Tua Tagovailoa. The recent trend is he is QB3 over the last 4 games. And from what we know with Tua, all right, he's pulling a reverse Tua right now. He always sucks in the beginning of the year. I mean, sorry, he always kills it in the beginning of the year and then sucks down the stretch. And the main reason is because of weather. All right. Now, maybe, it's a situation because of the injury. It benefits him. Now he's playing the beginning of his season now. But like going into the playoffs, I did not think I'd be saying, yes, Tua is a smash play. But against Houston, they're the 5th toughest matchup for running backs, 12th best matchup for QBs. And he's throwing the ball the 3rd most over the past month. Like, I know it's mainly to Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane, but he's also leading the league in completion percentage. So he's completing all these passes where, like, Tua, I would even play over Baker this week. It's one of those things where Tua is just killing it right now, guys, and we got to accept it.
Yeah, I get it. And I kind of like his matchups in the playoffs outside of week 17. Careful going to Cleveland. We talking weather game? Ooh, that could be bad. That could be really bad.
Yes.
So careful with that one. But yeah, I mean, he's looking really good. He's looking like that offense is clicking. Finally, even Waddle's getting in on the action. So I'm going to highlight something here. Same division. I'm going to look into this Buffalo Bills receiving core a little bit, and I know everybody wants to look at these stats, these gaudy stats from these receivers last week and say, oh man, Amari Cooper's the guy now, right? 14 targets last week. Yeah, that looks awesome. Be careful. He was only on the field. He was on the field the 4th most out of all the receivers. And if you add Dawson Knox in the mix, 5th most. 32 snaps for him. Yes, 14 targets, leads the team. He had, a bunch of receptions, bunch of yards. It looked good. Shakir is still the guy that I trust in this offense more than I do Amari Cooper. I want the guy who's on the field more, running more routes. I don't want to have to rely on a guy getting 50% targets per route run. That's not a high percentage. To put that into perspective, 54%, he was targeted on 54% of his routes run last week. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp lead the league with 37 and I believe like 32%. Now this game is probably going to change that, but that was before this Thursday night game, which has been a disaster. Like Cooper's a good wide receiver 3, flex upside type play if you really need him, but I really have a hard time trusting him going into my fantasy playoffs. Maybe, I don't know. What do y'all think about that? I'm terrified to use him.
So it's interesting because that actually kind of transitions into my topic, which we can kind of parlay both of them together. And it was just, we don't always see it, but we saw it a lot this season. Big name wide receivers switching teams mid-season and how that impacts them for fantasy. Obviously, it did not work out for Deontay Johnson. It's somewhat working out for Amari Cooper, and it absolutely is doing a lot for DeAndre Hopkins. So I think that the usage for Amari Cooper, you have to look at through the lens of he joined this team, 8 weeks ago at this point. He's still learning the offense. That's why I think he's getting limited snaps and such a high target share when he's actually on the field, because they're drawing up these plays for him. And I think that we're seeing more of that now, and that's why the higher target share recently is, or the increased targets recently is more of a thing because they're creating more plays for him. He's learning more plays in their offense, and that's why he's getting utilized, but in smaller sample sizes, in smaller snap shares. So I actually think it's you have to look at the context of he joined this team not in the beginning of the year, but midway through the season. And I think that he could actually be very valuable for the fantasy playoffs because of this trend.
Yeah, I mean, and Hopkins on the same side though, he's been scoring touchdowns. He gets a lot of red zone and end zone targets, which has really helped him. But he's kind of the same way with the snaps and the routes run and the targets. He's actually seeing fewer targets than Cooper. But the snap share and the usage is about the same. Like all the other guys are getting more work. I trust Hopkins a little more because he is getting those end zone targets that like when they get down there, they're looking his way. So,
Mike, you have any thoughts?
Well, I really thought Deontay Johnson would be better. That's one thought.
I thought he'd play more than 4 snaps a game
and not get suspended by his own team
for not going in the game when he was requested to go in the game after complaining about not being in the game enough. It's very, very weird. But, those wide receivers traded midseason, I know Joe always harps on it. It doesn't really necessarily work out. But I think in the case for Hopkins, like Mahomes, they need him to work out. And that's why it's working out so well. Yes. I mean, maybe with Pacheco getting healthier, they don't need him as much and they can lean more on Pacheco. Noah Gray seems to be becoming a thing as well. But no, I don't have much. I just have my next topic here. But it is a wide receiver. I will say that he just wasn't traded mid-season. Maybe you did in your fantasy league. But it's Jordan Addison. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but over the last month, he's wide receiver 4, averaging 23.5 fantasy points a game. But it's only on 8.8 targets over the past 4 weeks, which is, 17th amongst wide receivers, which is still good. But, I mean, he is overperforming for the amount of volume he is getting. So I'm worried because people are going to be making rash decisions in the playoffs and potentially starting Jordan Addison over some players like this week. I'll take Addison, because he did have a wide receiver 1 finish back in week 12. And this is really when he started to take off, was against this team, because they focus mainly on Justin Jefferson, which is probably going to be the same exact game plan again. But after that, I'm a little worried for Addison as far as being able to continue this trend, because typically when we get into these late into the December months, and you are playing outside, Green Bay week 17 championship week, I'm worried that, people will be starting him when they should be starting somebody safer, like maybe Calvin Ridley, if you're making that decision.
Yeah, Addison's risky. But I like him.
I see the appeal. We're seeing the ceiling unfold right now.
I'll tell you what, I'm moving him into wide receiver 2 territory right now. I am, which is higher than he's been all year for me. So I do like it so far. We've already talked about a lot of these. So I guess I'll get more into this Saints backfield. And I tweeted about it like mid-game last week when I saw Kendre Miller get that carry inside the 10-yard line and take it in for the touchdown. I'm just like, I swear the Saints are purposely trying to find ways not to give Alvin Kamara the ball.
You know how you can split.
I feel like they owed Kendre Miller one.
Did they? I mean,
the team definitely thought so, because he ran into about the 3-yard line. The team he ran into the 3-yard line, and then the whole O-line just pushed him into the end zone. They're like, he deserved this.
He was put back on IR for absolutely no reason, except for the fact that Dennis Allen hated him.
I still don't understand why he did.
The team owed him one. No one will ever know.
So I know we're already worried about Kamara with the quarterback change, right? Here's some other concerns. I really looked into this because Alvin Kamara the rest of the season and his inside the 10-yard line usage is troubling to me. So some of the stats, right? Over the entire season, 13 games, Kamara has just 17 carries from inside the 10-yard line. To put that in perspective, Taysom Hill has 6 in 8 games. Kamara,
Taysom Hill.
6 inside the 10 since week 8. Kendre Miller got the only attempt last week. Taysom Hill had 4 since week 8. And that also includes the fact that he didn't play week 14 and he missed a lot of week 13. So, like, just everything leans away from him. And then you're like, oh, well, whatever. He doesn't need to carry the ball. He catches the ball, right? Kamara has 0 targets inside the 10-yard line. I don't know if the stats that I looked up were wrong, but that one was like, what?
No, I can confirm it. I'm looking at it right now. I wanted to double check just to be safe.
But here's the
Inside the
question:
10
how many
yard.
times?
Yeah.
How many times have the Saints been inside the 10-yard line?
Apparently
That's fair.
enough.
Because a
The
lot
fact that Kamara only has like half of the touches for running backs.
But
and
a
Taysom
lot of their
Hill, if you count
touchdowns
him.
have been deep balls to
I get it.
to
I get it.
Marcus Valdes-Scantling, and I just don't think they've been inside the 10-yard line a lot.
No. Totally valid point. But the fact that once they get there, they have found ways to give the ball to somebody else besides Kamara. That's what is very concerning to me. And I wish I had realized this earlier, because I probably, like, once Taysom Hill was hurt, once all the receivers got hurt, and you're looking at MVS as like wide receiver 1, and yes, he catches the deep ball, but as Mike, Green Bay fan here, knows, MVS will also drop 4 touchdown passes before he catches another one. Like, it's just going to happen, right? So once all of that happens, we're all thinking, oh, Alvin Kamara is going to smash. He's going to get 50% of the touches in this offense, and he should. But once they get inside, once they get close to the goal line, they're going, nah, we're going to give the ball to this guy. Kamara, you sit over there. Just watch. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, yes, valid point. They're not there very often because they've scored on deep passes a lot.
Or they haven't
or they don't score.
Right. It's just once they get there, they're not giving him the chance. He hasn't scored since week. I think he hasn't scored since week 7, 8.
Jeez.
I think I wrote it down, but I
just
can't find it.
wonder. I wonder with these teams that know that they're done, like they know they have no shot for the playoffs. Why not spread the ball around? Like, you already signed Kamara to an extension. You want to keep him healthy for next year. Get other guys involved, up their confidence moving forward. See what they can give you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to come up with some plausible explanations.
I get it.
Truly, I don't understand it either, but that's what I got.
And look, my dynasty team, who's been holding on to Kendre Miller for 2 years now, is loving it. But I'm like, oh, he's alive. He's got a pulse. I'm hoping it's not.
I got to take him off my IR after I had to put him back on my IR.
Yeah,
right. I kind of wanted him to stay there because I didn't know if he was going to be anything. But yeah, whatever. He came off. I had to pull him off my IR. But yeah, I don't know. It is very concerning, and he does drop down the list. So like the fact that Carlos asked that question, like, should I bench Kamara for Brian Robinson? That's a valid question now at this point. It really is. I still lean Kamara because I think he's just as bad as the quarterback play might be. He's just super involved. I get the touchdown
except
upside
in the red zone.
I know the upside is not there for touchdowns, but we all know touchdowns are also unpredictable. And as much as we think Brian Robinson's probably got a higher projection to get a touchdown than Kamara, still may not happen. So,
and it was week 6 was the last time Kamara scored.
Oh, even worse. Okay, I'll give him credit. All right,
I mean,
so that's all
he did. He did. Finish as. No, I don't even want to talk about it. Go ahead. That's not that good.
Oh well, we got a last question here at the buzzer. Michael Hart here. Pick 3 full PPR: AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, JSN, T Higgins, Lad McConkey. Ooh, baby.
I have to write these. I'm like, what?
They're on the screen, thankfully, because I'm the same way.
I know.
So for me, I'm all in on Higgins this week. AJ Brown is my second. I want to lean Adams.
Well, it all depends if McConkey's healthy.
That's true. I've got McConkey a little low because I'm not really sure right now. Still don't think I could rank him over those three, though.
No, I
think...
So
you went Higgins, Adams, and A.J. Brown?
Mm-hmm.
And my lock is Adams.
Same.
The mind meld with Rodgers right now is back on. So he's my he's my lock. I know you're gonna say Packers fan, whatever, but it's true.
No, I get it. The mind meld. That's funny.
I mean, it's probably melting at this point with how Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Does he even have a brain?
It's ayahuasca at this point.
He's watching his Netflix show.
Yeah. And
I refuse to watch it.
I know, me too.
With these options, I will reluctantly sit AJ Brown because they are just not throwing the ball that much for Philly. They have a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. I think especially if Ladd's healthy, I want to go Ladd. I want to go Devontae Adams. And I'm really stuck between JSN and T. Higgins. But I guess I will take the edge in Higgins just because of the matchup with JSN against the Packers.
I am exactly on the same boat as you. Like, just matchup based, I'm taking Higgins over JSN. But if the matchups were even, I would take JSN. But it's just purely because Higgins has the better matchup, and I have no idea what's going on in Philadelphia right now, other than the fact that Saquon Barkley is everything to them, which as a Giants fan is hard.
Oh, you are lucky AJ's not here. He's an Eagles fan.
Yeah, it's okay. I was on the other podcast I was with an Eagles fan and a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so they were just all Pennsylvania all the time.
Oh no,
I'm Commander, so we would have had the triple NFC East, and the co-owner for the site is Keith Lott, and he's a Giants fan, and I don't even remember how it started at this point, but every time we say something funny about the Giants, we have hashtag suck at Keith. We have no idea. I don't even remember how it started. I have to go back. And
honestly,
maybe
I feel like I feel like we're picking on Keith more than the Giants at this point.
It is. Oh, at this point now, it totally is. It's just funny. He loves it. He thinks it's funny, but yeah, it's just.
I think I'm an honorary Detroit fan at this point for the rest of the season because I'm a Giants fan. I live in New Orleans. Neither of those are good options. I need somebody to root for, and Detroit's just too fun. How can you root against them?
I was rooting for them really hard last year. I wanted them and the Browns to make it to the Super Bowl because I was like, come on, how fun would that be? Somebody's gonna win their first one, and then it was the Chiefs again. Meh. All right.
So I'm all in on the Lions rest of the season. Call me a bandwagon fan. I am, but I'm here to support.
I feel like the most entertaining Super Bowl would be the Lions-Bills at this point. And we're getting a preview of it this week.
We'll find out this week.
That is true. All right, so that is it for the show. Carly, I want to thank you for coming on. And before we let you go, let everybody know where they can find you.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, guys. This was so much fun. You guys can find me on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. And Blue Sky at Cinco de Manger. You can see it, little handle right there. I put most of my content out on Blue Sky. When I remember, I also put it over on Twitter. But if you really want to interact with me, get me to answer any questions you have, come find me on Blue Sky.
Absolutely. All right, so hopefully we'll be seeing more of you around here and on Blue Sky and all that kind of good stuff. Great content you've got going on out there.
Thank you.
Make sure you follow her. And thanks again. We'll have to do it again soon, Carly.
Absolutely. Would love to come back.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right, Mike. So that's it for the show. Hope everybody, I don't know. Were we more exciting than the 12-6 game tonight? We might have been. First time ever. I know Thursday night games are bad, but woof, this one.
This was supposed to be a good one, though. Niners,
I picked the
Rams.
over big time, but this was not good. All right. Anyway, so that's it for the show, everybody. Hope you got some good information and good luck in your week 1 of your playoffs. And hit us up on our Discord, become an all access member, and see y'all next week. Peace.